Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the GM Norm Round Robin here in New York. This is round number 6, and in this round, I'm playing against Casa Corley. Casa's having not a great event. He's on -2, which means he's lost 2 more games than he's won. I think he's lost 2 and made 3 draws. I've had some combative games. I've lost the game, but I've also won 2 games, so I have 3 out of 5. Casa's rating is about 2,400, and we played recently in Charlotte. And what I knew about Casa is that, he's probably going to play this. But really, he's been doing this in a different move order, so I was ready to invite him into a Nimso. And the reason I played knight c3 and not knight f3 is because of my approach to the Benoni that I wanted to take. And the approach being that if he plays the Benoni, I actually was like, is he going to play the Benko? Holy crap. But he's been playing this a lot. He's been playing the Benoni a lot and having good success with it, having some really nice positions. I decided to challenge him with the pawn storm attack, or kind of the 4 pawns attack. Now, you remember my game against Ryo Chen, when Ryo played e6. I took on e6 and remained with the pawn on c4. This is another way to play it. So it's kind of like the prep adding up. And, this is the position I could have had. This is a very mainline position. And the critical variation is rook to e8, at which point white throws the pawn into the center, and oftentimes sacrifices and either plays bishop g5 or d6. And it's just, it's craziness. I was really hoping we would enter it. But he played bishop g4, which is kind of like the simple variation. It's like very easy to play. You're going to give this bishop up, you're going to play knight d7, you're going to play rook e8, but white is better. The engine really doesn't like this for black, but you still have to play chess. So it's a very easy system to play. It's just not critical, challenging white's position. Mind you, Casa's thought for a while. Like, my whole life, I've played Casa with the black pieces 4 times, maybe 5 times, always super fast, right? So it's good to get him out of his comfort zone. I castled very quickly. He thought again for 5 minutes. He played knight d7. I played h3, which is part of the opening. And now again, he thought for a while. Now, at this point, generally a6 is pretty normal. And b5 and queenside counterplay is pretty good. I was actually shocked he didn't go for it. But I noticed that in his Benoni games, he actually likes to have this knight on a6. He doesn't like to create counterplay with a6. And also in his Benoni games, he likes to play knight h5, f5. So the 2 ways that he wants to play are now impossible. And I was actually pretty happy with that because I've actually had this position probably 20, 30 times in Blitz. And he played rook e8, which I thought did not make sense. Now, it's 100% the move. What I'm saying, if you have an option between playing rook e8 in this position and not playing rook e8, I would think that you would want to create some counterplay over here, and I'll tell you why. Because my whole idea here is to play g4, which also caught him a bit off guard. And by the time he played his next move, I was up 30 minutes on the clock. Now, g4, the whole point is that you want to go g5. This is the way I play this position. So, for example, if a6, g4, b5, and, we have a crazy shootout, what's going to happen is b4 will come. I'm going to probably rotate my knight around, king g2, rook h1. It's a crazy game. He tries to kill me on the queen side. I try to kill him on the king side. But when he played rook e8, I was like, where's his knight going to go? No one has ever played this particular move order against me because your knight now has no way home. And I thought he had to go h6. I was sitting there waiting for him to play this move because I would play h4. He might play I don't know, a6. And then, I was calculating what would happen if at some point he ended up playing the move f6. And then he shocked the crap out of me. He played b5. He played b5. And the point of b5 is that, of course, I can't take because then he goes here. But where's his knight going? He obviously can't go b4 because I take and then I'm going to take his bishop too. He's not in time to take my knight. Now, if he plays knight h5, I was, of course, going to take to damage the structure. And then I thought, maybe queen f3. Or if I don't take, then maybe I play knight b5 now, and I call the bluff or something. And then he played b4, and I was like, what? What? So I have 2 choices. I can take on f6, but I actually can also throw in this move before I take on f6. Now, I thought, okay, that's a little bit too complex. I'm going to take the knight. He's going to take. And what he wants is for me to move my knight out of the middle and then to take my second pawn. Now, I have two ways of giving up that second pawn. I can give it up like this, or I can shove it forward. And I was trying to evaluate the position after b takes c3, e takes f6, queen takes f6, and I was like, okay, we're definitely better here, a lot better. I play rook b1, and then this just doesn't make any sense for black, because even though he has 2 pawns for my bishop, he has 0 play. Like, I don't know what he's going to attack. It's just a matter of time until I consolidate everything, and the truth is I have 5 pieces and he has 4. Doesn't always work like that. 5 knights are not worth as much as 4 queens, but, you know, in this case, when everything is the same and I have a bishop, you know, that's good for me. However, what I didn't quite understand was after the move e5, what happens if he takes? And then takes like this. Like, I couldn't figure this out. First, I calculated bishop f4. I quickly rejected that because after rook f5 and something like knight e2, I just thought I was way too passive. And, you know, he takes on d5. And so now he has not gotten 2 pawns. He has gotten 3 of them, which is not good. So then I thought rook e5, maybe I play knight e2 first. Knight takes d5. And here the machine gives knight f4. Check out this variation. Knight e3. So you have to see all this like 6 moves in advance. I have to take, right? He takes. Now, I don't take his queen because then he just brings the rook into the action. I take his rook. And here he has the absolutely, I mean, just one of the dumbest moves I've ever seen in my life. Bishop d4. I'm up a rook and a knight, but he is threatening to attack my king, and there's nothing I can do about it. So I have to, because, for example, if I play king h1, that just runs directly into check, which is even worse. If I play king h2, I get out of queen a8, but he still plays it. And even though I'm a rook up, the only move that keeps advantage here is the move queen to g4. Because if I play something like queen to d2, he plays g5, and somehow his attack is just getting in. Like, let's say I play knight h5, queen b8 check, something comes in with the rook and the queen. I mean, it's unbelievable. We are now 9 moves in the future after I hypothetically play e5. I didn't see that, you know, and I was like, all right, I'm just going to do this. Now, what is the plan to consolidate? Thought for a little bit here, considered a few things. Obviously considered just taking the knight right away. But I thought it's better if I force him into playing f5. It looks like it helps his position, but I thought it actually stomps a lot of pawn play. Like, once he commits all his pawn moves, he has no more pawn moves. So he's going to run out of play at some point. Maybe I didn't have to do this. I could have just played king g2, and you'll see I played this move here. The point of king g2 is actually 2 ideas. I sidestep any nonsense on this diagonal. I also just preemptively defend against queen h4, which probably will come at some point. And I thought about doing this. I actually thought about trading into a bishop's position because my knight is the problem. I just said this. A moment ago that, you know, it's better to have 2 bishops than bishop knight, because the truth is, you know, as powerful as being an extra piece is, this knight can't move anywhere. It's really difficult to move it. So I played king g2, he played queen h4, and in this position, I was contemplating taking this knight for a long time. I couldn't find a way to make any progress in the position. Like, I thought about playing a3. I didn't really know what this move did, and I was thinking to take on e4 and then play a3. Maybe I could have just played a3. I didn't like the fact that he maybe just goes a5. And here's the engine line here. Takes, okay? Now, he actually has to take with the c-pawn, because if he takes with the a-pawn, I take the rook, I take the knight, it's game over. He takes with the c-pawn, and I have to take here, rook e8, and here the only move for advantage for white, the only move, rook a2. Unpinning and preparing b3. Now, if you just tell me what the best move here is for white, I probably find rook a2. I have no other moves. But from a distance, and by the way, like, let's say you play bishop d2 to try to go here, suddenly after something like queen f6 and a4, a3, black has tremendous counterplay. So I was like, you know what? Screw this. I'm going to kick out his rook, and now I'm going to play a3. And I thought, you know what? I'm making progress. The alternative for me was to play rook b1, and then b3, bishop b2 to trade his bishop, but the problem is he's too fast down the middle. He's just too fast down the middle. So I'm sitting here like, how is this dude down 30 minutes on the clock sacrificing a piece with like no attack? I mean, just simply no attack, but I can't move anything. I'm like, this dude is a genius. a3. And at this point, I'm getting real confident I'm going to win this game for sure, because He can't play a5 now, because I just take and I open up my rook. And if he takes, I just open up my rook. I bring my rook, like, this is bad. Thinks for a while, plays rook b8. I'm like, you know, that move is actually annoying. Because now I'm giving him pressure on my pawn. I gave him more counterplay, even though it's a top engine move. And it's actually the only way to make progress in the position. I thought about playing this and going for rook trades, but after queen f6, I just can't stop his counterplay. Like, you think, okay, rook b1, no problem. Queen d4. He's all up in my shit. I mean, not like in my face, which is like the same thing. But like, how do I defend it? I can't defend anything. He just comes back with his queen and gets counterplay. My knight, as nice as it is being up a knight, is completely useless. Completely. Okay, it's like a souvenir. It's just there. I can't move it. I can't bring it back into the action. So a3, rook b8, takes, and I play rook a4. Look, I saw rook a4. I really liked it. And he can't trade with me. He can't lose more pieces. Once he starts really running out of artillery, that's when the knight is going to come into the game. He brings the rook back, and again, he maintains pressure on this and over here. But at this point, I'm kind of actively doubting the whole plan. I'm like, was a3 even the right way to go? Like, I didn't know if I could do anything else, but now I just kind of give him a target. So I kind of settle in for a moment. I'm like, okay, what is black going to do here? Black is going to double up on the e-file. Black is going to bring the queen back to pressure this. Black might want to bring a bishop to d4. And at some point, black is going to play h5 and h4. And my knight is going to be a little awkward. So what do I need from my knight? I need to go knight e2 at some point. Because if you go knight h1, you might as well slap yourself. I got to go knight e2. So I need to make sure that my knight is safe when he brings those rooks to the e-file. Now, I'm also thinking, can I just go for a counterplay? Nah, I don't really think so. Because like, once I strand my rook out there, I don't really know what I'm doing. Where do I bring this rook? Like, am I trying to go rook f3? I'm like, you know, maybe I'm trying to trade a rook on one of these squares, right? So I decide, okay, rook c4. The point of rook c4 is that if he plays rook e8, which is part of his idea, now I have b4. I'm actually going to beat him with my own weakness. And when he takes it, this is actually a huge improvement for me because he has no infiltration on these squares. If he plays rook e3, that's great. I take. He has no real attack. I mean, I can just block or play queen f2. So if he can't infiltrate and I can trade off enough pawns, he has no more structural advantages. And even though that pawn is extra, that pawn sucks, all right, in this position. But that pawn becomes a main protagonist later on in this game. So I'm like, okay, well, he can't play rook e8. So he plays queen f6. Actually, he did not play queen f6, but it transposed. He played h5 first. But okay, queen f6. And then at this point, I find a way to consolidate. So I play b3. So my pawn is off the edge. But, you know, he played h5, b3, queen f6, all the same stuff. And, this is the position. And now I'm actively thinking, I'm like, okay, I gotta be careful because if I move one of my pieces too far, he has rook b7, right? He always has this idea. All right, he always has this idea. Rook b7. The good thing is I have rook f3. It's really nice. I always have rook f3 protecting. Okay, so I want to bring my rook back to c2. So I want a position like this. Queen d3, like h4, here, rook c2. Come and get me. Or knight g1. I mean, let's use his forward momentum to completely freeze his pawn play. He has no more pawn moves. No more pawn play. Reroute to f3. Then that extra piece is going to get felt. I'm going to make him feel that extra piece. And I'm thinking, is there any difference between queen d1 and queen d3? Like, queen d3 is a bit more active, but queen d1 defends both pawns, defends e2. And I'm like, you know what? If I bring my rook back, then this is not actually going to be protected. So it's queen d3. I play queen d3. And I stare at the board and go, shit. Oh, no. Because now he can play rook b7. I completely forgot that when I play rook f3, I don't defend the pawn with the rook. I'm defending it with the queen. With the queen first. I just blanked. I blanked queen d1. Oh my god. And so the thing is, I might be able to get away with going for this position, but I thought that this was terrible. I mean, queen f7 to attack this makes me, like, Normally, 2 rooks and a knight for a queen is great, but he has 3 extra pawns. And I got the world's most dumb knight. That's like the dumbest knight of all time. It can't even get back into the game, and if it tries, I'm gonna lose the whole house. Okay? So, I'm like, shit. Okay. But I'm still up a little on the clock, and I'm like, okay, calm down. Just give him the pawn. Just give him the pawn. Don't fight back, he might have a gun. Just give him the pawn. Give me your wallet. It's fine. Rook F3. Takes, and he plays H4, and I'm thinking, knight E2, knight F1, I play knight E2. Now, at this point, I have to basically completely adapt to the fact that I very well might lose this game, so I am the defender now. I am not the hunter. Because, I mean, again, I'm really struggling to coordinate my pieces. And he now has the play. He has all the active lines. So he plays rook E8, and the whole time I'm still trying to stay up on the clock. I've got maybe 16 minutes, 17 minutes. He has maybe 13, 12 minutes. He plays rook E8. Here I blunder. I should go rook A4 and go pressure this. I didn't think this move made much sense because he just defends and goes here. Engine says you play king F1. You actually use your king as a defender. And then, you try to make progress with the active rook. Again, I'm trying not to fall behind too much on the clock, so I play rook C2 with the idea to play here. And he just totally blindsides me with his next move. Queen A1. It's just not a move you, actively think about. You're like, oh, the queen just goes all the way to the other side of the board and gives me the middle finger. That's basically what's going on here. So now I can't play bishop B2. So I'm like, God damn, what do I play? I mean, what do I play? All his pieces are so active. And his game plan is very simple. Put something on E4, put something on D4, A5, A4, A3. What do I do? I mean, what do I do? So I'm like, calm down. Keep it calm. Queen D3. Make him make the moves. If he plays rook E4, I was thinking to offer a rook trade, except that loses to the backward queen move, queen A6. So I can't do that. Rook E4 was a very annoying move. I was thinking maybe knight C3. I don't know. But he thought for a while, and that was, again, it was really surprising me. He played king H7. I think he's just trying to improve the position of his king, make sure nothing ever hits him on the back rank. I still have no effing clue what to do in this position, so I play bishop E3, because I'm trying to come up with an idea where my bishop kind of, goes for this pawn. Admittedly, I should have rerouted right now. I don't know why I didn't. I think I was scared of this, which just looks terrifying. But apparently, queen D2 defends everything, and his rook has to go back. Rook E1 looks very scary. I mean, it looks scary to get hit with, a move like this, And now the queen's like, hi! I can't move any pieces. I mean, it's a terrifying position. Even with knight F3, okay, yes, congrats, I gave a check, king G8, now what? I mean, he's just walking the pawn down the board. But I have knight E6, so probably he would play bishop F6 to prevent knight G5. Yeah, I decided to play this. He played A5, and I'm like, God, holding on for dear life here. All right, I gotta attack his queen, kick his queen out. Plays a really nice move here. Plays queen B2. Computer prefers queen A2. Queen A2 instead of queen B2 because the B file is open for the rook. Either with rook E4, rook B4, or rook B8, rook B2, rook B3. It's really counterintuitive to put your queen in front of your own pawn, though. And, that's the last thing I was thinking. I also thought he played queen B2. I thought the tide was totally shifting in his direction. Now, I cannot play rook C2 or rook B1, which was my idea, because kaboom, danger levels, you suck, resign, GG, and I'm just gonna lose the game. So, I played king F3, which is a ballsy move. My king is like, yo, bishop, knight, I got you. Problem is now he just plays rook B8. I'm like, oh my god, he's playing rook B3. Let's go for a queen trade. Now, a queen trade here is good and only good for me if I keep the pawn split. Whereas, if something like this happened, this is really bad because I help his pawns team up. It's probably even worse if C4. But if I let the pawns team up, I just lose the game because I don't have the capability to prevent the pawns from coming forward. I need to keep the pawns split. So he plays queen A3. Again, I'm like, God damn it, this move is so annoying. So I have to play rook B1. I also have to calculate here that bishop D4 does not win for black. And it doesn't because boom, 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 boom. It's a draw. My knight stops mate. My queen guards my knight. There's nothing better than to repeat moves. I mean, obviously, I'm fine with the draw at this point, so I play rook B1. Now he plays rook B4. I'm like, oh my god, he's trying to connect his pawns. What do I do? Only move that doesn't lose. One move in this position that doesn't lose for white. Everything else is losing. Every other move loses because he's just threatening too much stuff. Try to see if you can find it. Very good. King F2, only move. Do you know what the idea of this move is? Forcing him to move his rook. Now, for a while, I actually thought about king g2 with the idea a4, bishop c1, his queen is trapped. You know what the problem with king g2 is? It hangs the bishop. I actually thought about king g2 for like a minute because I was like, my pawn is defended. You see, king f2 doesn't defend the pawn, but it still works because, again, I don't care about this pawn. If my queen can get in, and the other thing I have to worry about is trading his bishop. If I can trade our dark squared bishops, his king has no cover. My queen infiltrating would be a godsend. So he plays a4, and now I hit him with rook takes b4. I could have also probably played bishop c1 here. That was actually my original idea of king f2, was bishop c1, and then takes, take, and then queen takes a4. So actually snag a pawn. But I was a little petrified of having just b and h down the edge of the board. I realized that after rook takes b4, I actually can draw the game as well. Why? Because if pawns connect, I go to c7. And actually, I'm winning. I'm winning. Because I'm threatening bishop d4. If he tries to unpin himself, I have like queen e7 with like mate. I mean, it's like a total script flip. So he plays queen b4, and now I bounce my bishop back to d2, and I get the trade. And if I can get the trade, I can hold. He pins me, still tricks in the position, still tricks. I have to find queen d2, keep a cool head, defend everything, and now with bishop c3, I can actually take with the knight, but I can also take with the queen because I'm not worried about losing this pawn. If my queen infiltrates, I have enough checks to keep his king always occupied, and he just can't get the pawn through. He decides to throw in the pawn move first, and now I had a difficult decision. Do I trade queens and hope that this is a fortress? Like my knight just holds this pawn, but he can't. Or what I thought was much cleaner was just this move. This is both a fork of the pawn and the check, and now his queen is actually blocked by my pawn. If he takes, I take this, so his hopes of promoting are gone, and actually I'm playing this endgame for a win. Like this endgame, I'm trying to win, not him, because I have a knight, and his pawns are much slower. But he just goes here, and we repeat moves. I played queen e7, and we made a draw, because it's a draw. So, yeah, I mean, that game was a little bit of a disaster. We were definitely better from the opening, but b5 was a unbelievably creative sacrifice. And, you know, Stockfish, I knew Stockfish wouldn't love it. It would say that white was better, but I made a slip up. But if you're telling me the only way to play this position is to open up this b file and get him counterplay, then, I mean, I don't know. I don't understand chess that well. So, a fun game, which could have ended much worse, but... yeah, I mean, we held our nerves and we defended, and we now have 3.5 out of 6. So we're still tied for second place with 2 of the Grandmasters. Alex Lenderman is 6-0, beating everybody in his way. And I'll see you all for round number 7. Get out of here.